All right, thanks for tuning in to our crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Panthers podcast. I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears alongside Julian Council from Locked On Panthers. And our crossover Thursday podcast is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app and use our code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Julian, what do you see as some of the keys here for the Panthers? What do they need to do around Eddie Dalton? What do they need to do defensively? How can they get a win over the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, looking at the defense first, Lauren, we brought up earlier in the show that Shaq Thompson out for the rest of the season for Carolina. Josie Jewell not expected to play on Sunday with that groin and hamstring injury. So that means Trevin Wallace, rookie, you're up. Claude Charles, you're also up as the two starters at that interior linebacker spot. The Panthers currently have 111 career snaps among their linebackers. Four guys, 111 career snaps, not starts, snaps. That is concerning when you're just looking at the overall depth and experience. And we'll see. They drafted Trevin Wallace in the third round out of Kentucky for a reason. Hopefully, for the Panthers' sake, they're going to see that reason on Sunday as he steps into that role that they're expecting he's going to hold for the next 4+ years. And Clyde Charles, been more of someone that they've seen as a special teams guy, really stepped up in the preseason as an interior linebacker with that second team unit. So we'll see what they're able to do, but they really going to need those linebackers to not have a significant drop off from the two vets in Thompson and Josie Jewell. The second thing I'm looking at, they got to find a way to put pressure on the rookie Caleb Williams. The Bears have given up 16 sacks. It's tied third most in the NFL. 10.2 sack percentage allowed, which is 28th in the league. The Panthers, though, they're not great at getting after the passer. You look at this outside linebacker group of pass rushers outside of Jadeveon Clowney, you don't know who any of these guys are. I saw someone write earlier this week, it's a who's who of whom. And that's the problem when you don't have someone like DJ Woonem, who was within the division a year ago there in the NFC North playing for Minnesota. He's still on the PUP list, recovering from a partially torn quad, also maybe some other health issues there that's keeping him out right now as he's going to miss his 5th straight game to start off this season. They got to find some pressure on the quarterback this week, especially against a rookie who loves to do things out of structure, but can be prone to make a couple of mistakes. And we've seen that early on in his rookie career. It's going to happen. I think Williams is going to be a good player down the road, but it's still early on. And I think Ejiro Rivera is a DC that can get after him. So they got to be able to find somebody to get some pressure. And that's just the thing you want to do each and every single week, but only 5 sacks, league worst 12.8 pressure percentage. Not great. And then number 3, like Chuba Hubbard has been outstanding on the ground the last couple of weeks. The Bears defense is phenomenal, especially in the secondary, but I think they can be had a little bit in the run game. The Panthers have been solid up front so far. Back-to-back 100-yard rushing games with Chuba Hubbard. That's really where they want to lead off with their offense, be able to take pressure off Andy Dalton against a strong secondary, run the ball. He's third right now in the NFL in success rate. Chuba Hubbard is at 65.5, right behind Chase Brown of the Bengals and Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. Give him the ball, feed him, and that's a way to have success and win a game this Sunday in Chicago.
I will say that it'll be an interesting matchup there of trying to get this Panthers defensive line going, both in the pass rushing game, but also keeping your linebackers free on the back end so they don't have as much to wash through in the running game against a Bears offensive line that has been really the Achilles heel of the offense so far, particularly on the interior, where your left guard, Tevin Jenkins, we kind of thought would be your best lineman this year. And not only has he been struggling a lot more than we expected, but he's also injured now, dealing with a rib injury. The Bears seem to have some optimism that he could be able to go this week. They're calling it a day-to-day thing, so they'll kind of see. But even if he does go, he's not going to be at 100%. He's going to be dealing with some pain there, and he wasn't playing phenomenally before he had the injury. And then there's their new center, Coleman Shelton, who they signed from the Rams this offseason, has been pretty disappointing and probably the weakest link up front. And they've been rotating right guards next to them. So that whole interior has been messy. So I think you can trust the Bears tackles a little bit more against somebody like Clowney or Charles Harris on the other side. But I'm looking at somebody like, Ashawn Robinson in the interior, or if Shai Tuttle plays up the nose. I think those are going to be the guys that can make the biggest difference, because that's where the Bears are weaker up front, and also where the Bears are going to want to run the ball up front, right up that middle in the court towards those linebackers. But if the Panthers can win those matchups, I think that's an area where, you can find some advantages.
Yeah, and those are the matchups they won a couple weeks ago when they beat the Raiders on the road, as they got injuries there in the interior defensive line, where Derek Brown, their best defensive player, maybe their best player overall, he's out for the rest of the season with the meniscus tear. Then Shai Tuttle, honestly has been terrible when he's played here in Carolina, dating back to last season in the first 2 games. They haven't really missed him that much the last 2 weeks. Jaden Peavy has actually stepped up in that role, and he's been a much better player for Carolina than Tuttle has ever been in his tenure here in Charlotte. And A'Shawn Robinson is actually, all things considered, as bad as they've been up front on the defensive line, has actually been a pretty solid signing for them. He's been an upgrade over the guy, Deshaun Williams, who they had last year. Coincidentally, Deshaun Williams, who did not make the Bills team, is now back on the Panthers practice squad, has been elevated the last 2 weeks, and I expect that will likely be the case again. So we'll see. Like guys like Nick Thurman, LeBron Reagan have to step up, be able to win those battles on the inside. But yeah, it's definitely going to be A'Shawn Robinson and Jaden Peavy are the two guys you're looking at. And if Tuttle's available and healthy with that foot injury, which has caused him the last 2 weeks to miss out on, he'll start, even though I don't know how much that's going to really help Carolina as far as their want to win this game on Sunday. But what about for the Bears as far as the 3 things they got to try to do in order to win this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely ties right back in, right, to the same thing. The interior of this Bears offensive line has to keep making progress. It felt like a step forward last week in the running game. And I give some credit to the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who came under a lot of fire, but mixed up the run concepts a lot in the ground. They went to some more gap scheme runs, power and counter, or just duo right at the middle down your throat. And I think it let the interior in particular not have to be so athletic, moving side to side, but just like, okay, I'm just going to hit the guy in front of me and try and move him with a little bit more power than finesse here. And I think they were able to lean into that a little bit more. So they need to be able to lean into that again and say, no matter what your combination of the 3 in the middle is, which at this point could be any combination of the 3 there, being able to kind of lean forward and get some north-south movement on this offensive line in the running game is going to be so critical, because they want Caleb Williams to just have to be a game manager and to not have to escape the pocket and make miraculous throws outside of structure, right? Like, it's great when he can do that, but you don't want that to be your plan A. You want that to be the plan B or plan C, and not call on that every other passing play because it's the only way you can generate some offense. So they want a boring looking offense where they just run the ball, check it down to the running back, to the tight end, let them make some plays after the catch, and then in theory mix in some deep shots downfield. And that's kind of the other second key here, is that Caleb Williams has taken pretty good care of the football underneath. It's the deep shots where the accuracy is just not yet dialed in. It's getting on the same page as DJ Moore, as Rome Odunze, as Keenan Allen. They'll get guys open, but he'll overthrow it a little bit, or put it a little bit too far in front, or he thinks he's going to bend the route in, but he takes the route vertical, and they're not on the same page there. We're still waiting for the Bears to really unlock that aspect of their offense. They've hit like maybe 1 or 2 over the course of the year, but like a little bit more of that. So it's not purely just check down Charlie, but it's the deep shots to open things up vertically, and then you'll create more space underneath the check downs, and vice versa. Stretch them out horizontally and vertically on offense. And then defensively, the last thing for the Bears here, they just need to keep things in front of them and wait for the Panthers to make a mistake, right? Like, Andy Dalton is a good quarterback, and he's going to be smart with the football, but he's going to give you an opportunity once or twice in the game, and you just have to be able to capitalize that. Don't make it easy on them. Don't give them up the big play. Let them catch it underneath and just make the tackle soundly, and make them go 12 plays to get down the field on you every single drive. Most NFL offenses can't do 12 play drives over and over and over again without a drop, a fumble, an interception, a sack, something along the way, a penalty that derails a drive. So the Bears can kind of just be patient with it and understand that Dalton's going to move the ball a bit between the 20s, but they'll hold firm in the red zone. A turnover or 2 will go a long way towards giving Caleb Williams in this offense another shot with the ball, another score on the board, and then perhaps another Chicago Bears victory. One last thing I want to ask you about, Julian, before we wrapped up. Panthers ran a punt last week. Could we expect any special teams shenanigans in this game?
I don't know. Depends on what time score is. I think last week it made a lot of sense, considering that they got off to a slow start. They were down 2 scores. Why not try to make something happen in that situation? And they had it until they didn't. It was a great defensive play there by the Bengals. I don't think any trickeration as far as that goes, unless it's absolutely necessary. But I'm very curious to see how this game goes. I know the Bears are still trying to figure out who they are offensively. 5th career start of Caleb Williams. And you've obviously seen Andy Dalton there in Chicago, and we watched him go to Dallas when he had to start, when Dak got hurt. We saw him a couple years ago with the Saints when Jameis went down. And this feels like through 2 weeks, this is the best I've seen Andy Dalton look in a long time. So I'm very curious to see if he does indeed put the ball in harm's way, because he's really not done that the first 2 weeks. Last week, it was Trey Hendrickson being able to beat the left tackle Ike Ekwonu and be able to knock the ball as Andy Dalton was throwing it. That was really the only kind of issue, like turnover. That's the only turnover he's had so far, but that's the only time he's really put the ball in harm's way. So I'm very curious to see, because I feel like the Panthers with Dalton, they've been able to move the ball down the field, and the Bears do have an excellent secondary. It'll be interesting to see how many points it's going to take to win this game, especially with a Panthers defense that's struggling and a Bears offense that's still trying to figure out who they are. So I don't think it's going to be a rock fight, but it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday for sure that I think can go either way.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That's why the spread is only 3.5 points at FanDuel Sportsbook there. Last thing I'll leave you with, to give you a sense of where this Bears offense has been this season. This week, the Bears official team social media account put out a highlight video of their punter, Torrey Taylor, who's been great this season. But when you're putting out the punter highlight tape, that's not necessarily a sign of a great offense. But
I love that, though, because honestly, that's what Iowa football was doing a couple years ago, as he was literally their best player. So it's good to see that some things stay the same.